watch the streaming running here. It's all working. Yes. Third lecture of the day. I'm like a generating content. I'm like an influencer on YouTube nowadays. So let's go. I just need to view here docs, sources, scenes. Yeah, and boom, and here we are. So you can see my screen. Yes. So I've been meditating about this. Like what was my intention with the previous course that we did, and my intention with this course. And of course, I mean, you're my friend and we can talk very clearly. This is the first time I do everything, so that's why it's so clumsy and there are errors and I fix it. I know you know this, but I apologize that it's like that. It's just the nature of the first time. It cannot be deleted. But I'm sort of happy about something. Like, it seems like the previous course was kind of like, imagine that you wanted people to fall in love with mixing, so you do all the fun stuff with them, and then, or at least, I'm not saying that that's how it went out. That's what I nowadays intend to do. I mean, in February, I will start giving the course that I gave you last year, and of course, I'm gonna make my best to try to make it better. And of course, if you want to come and see those lectures, you can, to improve your game of mixing. But in this course of post-production, I think that it's wise to do it like this. It's kind of like we give in the first year some sort of like fun game mixing approach, and then it's like, but let me show you the truth. The truth is that it's very annoying that you have to edit all this shit, because if I show that, I really think that that's a good idea. If I show that in the first year, it's kind of like, it's not that people are gonna get turned out by it. It's like, you really need to understand what's going on to understand what we're doing now. So I don't feel bad that we're giving a step back and kind of doing things that are more kind of non-mixing related, because the real bread and butter of the industry is to do a lot of things like this. So I'm happy that we're doing this. Like I told you, my goal is that across this year we do an album and a movie, or like a little episode of a CTV series. Sorry, actually, most likely it will be connected from my movie that I'm doing right now. So I already have 3 episodes there, and we can use this material. So we will do audiovisual and we will also do audio restoration. Okay, and so now we are delivering today's lecture. Is the lecture that I wanted to give last week, but I was really out of my foot and I couldn't do it really well, and now I prepared it. And so we're gonna see now I'm just confusing between all of these people. Mike Senior's approach towards all the things that I have told you so far, and how he sees it. Like, so you see that it's not just me who pulled this information out of my ropa, and and that's the first thing. And the second thing, because I also learned by seeing what he's saying. So today we're gonna see Mike Senior's approach to editing and what it needs to be done according to him, and then we will proceed to grab the same project that we have been doing together, the Trouble Juice, and I mean, I'm gonna continue to do what it's supposed to be your next Damashki Sadania, which is to grab what you edited and to prepare it for mixing, and then have it for mixing. And from there onwards, we're going to start mixing music again. And I guess that we will carry on towards the second semester, and we will be mixing and doing the movie in parallel. Like, I mean, we're going to be acting like as if you guys are working and I'm giving you work. Like, that's how I see it. But I will not pay for it. So it's very realistic.
The crucial part of the,
exactly. It's very realistic.
Job is not included.
Exactly. It's very realistic course. So anyways, let's move on. So look, this is a quote from the book. Like, the quality of your work will largely depend on how much practice you get. I mean, I know that that's obvious. That's super obvious. But you see, it's like, Leo, I don't believe you. It's like, well, okay, look, it's another person saying that. So obviously we need to practice. That's obvious. I'm not saying it like as if it's something surprise. Before we go into the miasa of this lecture, I added 2 engineers to our Hall of Fame, and I added them to the first lecture that we have, where we have the collection, because I think it's important that we study engineers. So one of them is Tony Maserati. Like, I'm always, when I'm grabbing these engineers, I'm always trying to grab like their most recent work and some kind of like older work. So Tony Maserati, I didn't know about Mike Posner because I'm super disconnected from the pop world, but he mixed this album called Operation Wake Up and Hands Up by the. I don't know if you remember this super famous album by the Black Eyed Peas, Elefunk.
Not really.
Yeah, it's a really big album, and so he mixed this as well. I'm not gonna play them now to you because you will hear like crap there.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I invite you to later before you come. Whatever. If you're interested, just go and check it out. By the way, do you remember my story with the Black Eyed Peas, or do you?
No.
I have a cool story with the Black Eyed Peas, man. If you remember, just stop me, and because I give so many lectures and I forget things that I say to people, but it's a good story. Like my second concert in my whole life was in a club called La Belle Époque in Caracas. It was a really cool place, and it was like, imagine like a Sunday night or something, the typical nights that they give you when you're nobody, and so we were playing there, and there were like 3 people in the audience, and I was there from the drums. I was playing drums, like, yeah, like, look, there are 3 people, and then I see 4 people comes in. Wow, 5, 6, 7, 8, 100. Like, the club gets full while we're playing, and we're like, yeah, like we're fucking nailing it, man. Like everybody's coming to check us out, and then the Black Eyed Peas came out, like into the club. Which is, if you were in New York or something, it's normal. But in Caracas, it was super, absolutely crazy. So, it's just like what happened is that there was a show of the Black Eyed Peas that day. And they said on the microphone, like, we're going to go to party to La Belle Époque. Like, come to join us. And so everybody came. And the really interesting part of that story that I want to tell you, apart from the fact that it's funny, it's that I went to talk to will.i.am after. And I was like 19 years old or something back then.
They were performing or just hanging out?
They played a show, and from the
yeah.
stage they said, "We're gonna go to party in La Belle Époque," and so that's why so much people knew that they were coming to La Belle Époque, and that's why the club got full. And when Will Wright came, I was asking him like, well, "How is your life? How are you? Nice to meet you," and stuff. And then I asked, "Where is Fergie?" And he told me, man, by contract, she cannot party. Like, the tour operator signs a contract that she cannot party. Because she can lose her voice if she smokes cigarettes or drinks alcohol and stuff. Yeah.
What's the point of the tour if you cannot
Making money. Making money. That's not bad. She still gets money. So anyways, that's a Tony Maserati. And the other one, man, this is huge. And, to be honest, I haven't focused on him so much. But Andy Wallace is obviously a huge person in the music of mixing. I really didn't know about him, to be honest with you. I knew, I have heard the name, but I didn't understand it was such a big deal. He did Jeff Buckley, Grace. He also did, I don't know if you noticed that I posted yesterday this Paul McCartney song in the if you're following the discography, the music channel, like I posted this this song he mixed Paul McCartney in 2007. By the way, check out that song, man. It's amazing. It's kind of like Queens of the Stone Age meets Paul McCartney, kind of. It's really cool. And also he mixed like Gojira in 2021, like super heavy metal, and he mixed Nirvana, Nevermind, just like a little album, kind of. So Andy Wallace is kind of the top of the pops, and I also added to this. I added an interview with him. It's kind of like 27 minutes. So just recommend you to check it out. They ask him some questions about vocal processing, channel strips that he used and things like that. Like, just cool interview. Recommended to watch. So don't miss it. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make the whole part of following the book as small as we can, so we can do it practical. But I do have prepared some material. This is what I really wanted to give you last week. But anyways, that's how it works. So this is what we have learned so far in the course, like until this point. It's a summary of the whole course, just like I was doing in the music production of a single. I think it's good to see it repeatedly. So if whatever you choose for monitors is important, great. If you pay a lot of attention to this, then you have like 90% of the battle won. I'm talking about studio acoustics and basic monitoring. And again, like, I think that it's not a bad idea to teach this, because we are in a new program, and we used to be like in an old situation. Now we're in a new situation, and I like that. You see, in the second year, because of the way the new program works, in the second year, everybody sees audio acoustics, and you will see it too with Sergei Proskuriakov. with the second year guys. And then they learn to mix basics with me, and then we go and we have some more adult conversations. It's like, hey, so we did, and I'm really happy that we did. So if you pay attention to monitoring, everything is going to be great, and you have a big part of your mixes done. So we need to learn how to convert subjective impressions into something more objective. Part of the problem of listening is that your ears adapt to whatever is happening. So they interact in weird ways not in weird, but in complex ways with what you're hearing. So they kind of give you a target that is moving, and it's real, man, that when you're more tired, I have noticed this, it's like you just hear totally different. It's really interesting, and it's like the ears are adapting. So you need to understand and work around this. So changing monitoring systems is important, taking a lot of breaks. I'm terrible at this, and I know that life is going to take a bite at me if I don't get serious at this. I just don't know, man. Like, life keeps throwing me at me, work and babies. It's just like they appear out of nowhere. It's like, baby, where are you from? and I just keep going. But yeah, I need to take breaks. Choosing and varying your monitor levels appropriately to make it louder and quieter, and gathering opinions of people is really cool. And so, obviously, the best way to make an objective decision is to have a reference. The more time you spend choosing your references, the cooler it's going to be for you. So switching, you need to find a way to switch between mix A and B that is really quick, that is not like a 3-step button process. If it's a button, it's better. And if you need to apply, when you have a reference and the reference is louder, maybe you can put some sort of proto mastering or ghetto mastering in your mix so you can actually compare. And this is something I added new there. And we're going to do this. I'm going to ask you to do this when you mix the next song that you're going to mix. We're going to export stems, so we're going to make stem mixing. So you're going to finish your mix. It's going to be cool. And then I'm going to ask you another damashki zadanie, tipa, okay, you did this already. Now please give me like drums, bass, guitars in a way that it's consistent, that I can just put it on a system and it replicates the same mix that you used to have. Because it's something that people are doing a lot now. Because sometimes maybe labels, they want to make a change after the whole thing was mixed. And so many labels in the West, in the bigger markets, are asking for stem mixes. And that's going to be really useful to practice. So today we're going to identify the important considerations to take when you're going to start a mix. The important considerations to take into consideration. That was very 4 a.m. of me. Initiate the process of mixing professionally. We want to open up discussion around mixing templates. Hey, I really, of course, remember that we already discussed mixing templates, but I have never asked you to give me your mixing template, and that's what I'm doing today. So I'm kind of like touching this topic again, and you're going to have to finish the editing of Trouble Juice, of the song that we have, and then prepare for mixing and send me the project so I can analyze it. And for this, I'm going to describe my project. I know that you most likely are sick of listening to this. Maybe yes, maybe not. I don't know. Describe concepts and thoughts that emerge from professional engineers that have spent years editing, and experiment with a particular session so we can discuss the study. So the whole topic of today is mixing prep. Again, yes, we have discussed this in the past, but I think we're more pro now and we can see it. And we are going to see it from the point of view of Mike Sr., not from my point of view. So, mixing prep. Let's start mixing. Nope. It's not time yet. I like how he says, I like the language that he used. It's not time to flex the faders yet, because you need to put together a preparation that is really well done. So something that many people from small, and this is his opinion, and it's important to see it. So many people who are like small studio owners and stuff, they try to mix the unmixable always, and that's the truth of all of us. And the problems come when they don't have a good preparation, and this adds up to the already limiting problems that they have. So proper mix preparation, according to Mike Sr. and to myself as well, is fundamental to achieve commercial results in any kind of repeatable way. Repeatable is important, because one thing is like, oh wow, that was such a lucky mix, and then okay, what about the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And so we don't hear famous engineers talking about mixing prep. Or not so much. I do hear it. There is a good session by Andrew Schweppes about this, but in general, it's not such a fancy topic. And why that is? Well, because they get their mix prepped by another person, and so they don't talk so much about it because they have a slave who does it for them. But you see, like they get prepared mixes already because producers and recordings engineer do this before them. And so when the project is sent to them, they already are, or the multi-track, they're already ready to go. And so big mixing engineers don't think about this. But this means that you and me and all of us, we need to get in the habit and the custom of preparing a great project so we can send it to them, to another person to mix, or a great set of multi-tracks. And that's kind of where we are in the course now. This is something that he says, my goal is always to give something to a mixing engineer where he can just press play and everything is kind of close. Look at the words he uses, I like them. To the architecture I want in terms of the arrangement. So that's an engineer called Glenn Ballard is saying that example. So quality control procedures are kind of boring. So it's not understandable that people who are very famous, they kind of don't pay attention so much to them. And because they have the luxury of having, look at how he writes it, like of farming out heavy editing and timing pitch correction donkey work to a specialist DAW operators behind the scenes. So he kind of like, they have the chance to hire a slave and the slaves does their work for them, and that's great. So the first things that happens, this is a guy called Neil Comber, is an engineer as well. The first thing that happened, this is explained by a guy called Sanso Townshend. I didn't know about him before. This guy, Neil Comber, is his assistant. He prepares the session, cleans everything for me the way I like. And Neil usually spends 3 hours of work before I start the mix. So that's a good reference of how much work goes even before you press play the first time. So you will see that in some aspects, Mike Sr. and I disagree, and that's really cool. I mean, maybe that invites me to review my method. Or maybe that invites you to ignore Mike Sr. and to follow me, or ignore me or to follow Mike Sr. That's really up to you. I think that the best way to be in university is to not believe in anybody. And I think that that's the best way. Inform your own opinion. So he recommends this, like kind of like, hey man, start from a blank slate. Start from a totally open session. I'm up for templates because I kind of don't change so much my plugin of choices. Kind of like I change every year. But you see, maybe if I would be not having a template, I would be more creative in the plugins I use. Do I need that or not? I don't know. It depends on so many things. But he says like, hey, you know, when a client sends you the rough mix setup, sometimes some people send you a Pro Tools project. This is rare because in Russia, not so much people work in Pro Tools. They send you a Pro Tools project and the Pro Tools project has already a bunch of plugins loaded. So what he means is let's just like get rid of all of that. And I 100% agree with that. Like whenever I receive a session that is not mine, I 100% of the times destroy the session that is not mine. Because, dude, like you don't know some hidden things there that you didn't know about this session. Some function that you didn't know that was on. I always delete everything and start again. And also this gives you a fresh perspective. And also, even if you're the person who records, I don't do this, for example, and I'm gonna consider it because Mike Sr. is saying it. Like when I record something, I kind of like develop that session all the way up until the mixing stage, and I kind of base my mixing session on that development. But he's kind of inviting us to like sort of like when we get to the mixing stage, delete everything in the session and sort of start again. I don't know. For me, it's a bit time consuming, but that's his proposal. Now, there is this point that I really agree 100%, which is like I deliberately define the point at which I start mixing. When you're doing a big production, like what I was telling you about my holiday, I was showing you this mess of a project that are many hard drives and stuff. I would like to show you an update because I updated it, and I'm kind of like I built mixing sessions. I did mixing prep for all the tech songs, compiled everything in one hard drive already, like. But we're still actually I said something wrong. I didn't build mixing preps. I kind of like got myself ready to start building mixing preps. Why? Because there are like a couple of songs that are still like we haven't recorded the vacuum vocals. And I will not move into the mixing mindset until everybody in the room says the tracking stage is 100% over. There will be never one tracking again for this. Okay, then I move to the mixing mindset. Until then, we're not in the mixing mindset. So I really agree with this. It's like stepping out of the production mindset to enter to the recording mindset, stepping out of the recording mindset to enter to the mixing mindset. And this is really important. So this guy, Fraser Smith, says like, hey, I deliberately define at the point at which I start mixing. I think it's helpful for my head, for my mind. I clear all the things, clean up the session, consolidate the tracks, and this is something, to be honest with you, I'm gonna start doing, and I'm gonna start doing by asking it to you. I don't do it like that. Sometimes I start mixing, and I always wanted to, until I read this, and then I was like, fuck, man, you knew that you should have done it like that, but I'm lazy. I'm lazy sometimes, and that sucks. Like, you see, like, not sometimes, the majority of the times I mix, and I still have the editing chops on the drums, you know, and it's bad for all the reasons. And so, you see, this guy says, I clear the decks, like, remove things that I don't need, clean up the session, consolidate all the tracks, and look at the session purely from a mix point of view. It feels like the session is set in stone, nothing is going to be moved. It's a visual and psychological thing, and I 100% agree with this. Like, it has to be in our mindset. So, some thoughts here that are on the table. One way or another, you should end up with a fresh DAW project that contains a bunch of bounce audio tracks that all start at the same point. There is a folder. By the way, I decided to do a little thing. I'm going to take a little detour to tell you something. Look, I'm going to bring this into the screen. There is a folder in Google Cloud in Yandex that I'm going to send to you. I just so you know that I'm going to send to you in here MMS in Telegram now. Where is it? MMS? No, it's not this one. It's this one. 2022, 2023. Actually, let me move this one sec. Musical resources. No. Yeah. Let me just move this to the MMS folder. Musical resources. So I don't know so well how to use. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, what I'm doing, bro, is that I have a common folder for year 1, 2, and 3 of all the multi-tracks and stems and things that I'm sharing with everybody. I used to have them separately, like year 1 students can only see what I do of year 1, and I don't care anymore, because my dream is that maybe you're in December and whatever, for some reason you woke up on a Sunday morning and you're like, oh, I feel like editing a song today. I know you will not do that, or the options that you do that are very low. But if that happens, you know, I want you to know that this folder will have shit tons of more stuff than what I'm giving you, in case this is useful to you. Resources. So you see, this is the deep editing of Trouble Juice, and now that folder has a password. That's why I'm telling you this right now, and I'm not gonna say the password or show the password online, because it's fun to do it like that. But I'm gonna write it to you, and I want you to laugh when I write it to you. I'm gonna write you this password right now. Where is here? Third year. Third year. Volkov. So here's the folder. The folder is in LMS anyways. Folder with a lot of material, and the password is okay. So
yeah, your son will like it.
Okay, cool. So there is a reason why I started telling you that right now, because I remember about a project that I was showing this today to the foundation, and actually this is gonna be a funny like loop here that I'm gonna make. I'm gonna show you a video from the lecture I gave like an hour ago. Just a moment, but it's just like the fastest way I can show you what I'm trying to talk about right now. No, wait. What I'm trying to talk about is an error that an engineer made in some session that they exported to me. That it's typical, and it's an error that we need to be ready to sort out. It happens a lot. Google playlist. Let me just open the video for today. You don't need to hear anything. All I need is to show you 1 second of one video, and that's all of today's video. Да, как будто есть. Wait, so no, it has to be lecture 9. In the So it's typical that this thing happens. We're talking about the fact that the tracks have to be all the same size and all start from 0 points. You see, it's typical that this shit happens. I hope that this thing can load. I'm streaming to YouTube the stream that I streamed to YouTube today. That's pretty circular logics. You see, like these synths. That's kind of, I was demonstrating this today because these multitracks have that error. Like the engineer who sent me those multitracks, like those synths, obviously they don't belong there at the beginning of the song. They just fucked it up, and then you have to manually find it. So obviously that's a bad practice. Everybody needs to export tracks that are the size of the whole thing. You see, so I moved it. That's what the engineer that sent me should have done it. I guess that he just made a mistake. It was Vanya actually from the DTH. I guess that he knows. It's just like I think he just used the wrong function. And I mean what was supposed to be happening there is that this should be one wavka that it's the same length of everything. That's obvious, and I know you know this. Okay, so make sure you prepare a set of unprocessed raw audio files, one for each track in your arrangements. Much as if you're having to mix this. As if you're gonna send this to mix for by somebody else. But I lost my track because what I really wanted to reread is this. One way or another, you should end up with a fresh DAW project containing a bunch of balanced audio tracks that all start at the same point. Cool. Now, this is really important, bro. When you're gonna go to mixing, and this is another mistake that sometimes I myself do, make sure to bounce down the output of any live running MIDI instruments as audio. Like 100%. For two reasons. This reduces CPU load, that's obvious. And this encourages endless tinkering with sync settings during mixing, so you don't touch the synth anymore. And dude, it really happens that you, and I guess you know this and maybe you have seen this, that you play a VST once, go to sleep, wake up the day after, play it again, and it's in a different key. Or it sounds different. So, I mean, it's really important to get in the habit of like, okay, I finished my production, my mixing, my recording, my editing. Let's now compile everything so it's all written in stone. Splitting out, and this is important, like whenever you get the chance of grabbing drum machines that you're working with and splitting them in kick, snare, toms, obviously it's better to do it like that. And this is a recommendation, and again, it's something that I was not doing, and I think he's right. Let's say that you made for example, in the movie I'm making, there are these like synths. A lot of them have automation, and if for example, like imagine a synth which is like it has a delay that I automate a lot the feedback. So there is this recommendation which is like, hey, if there is an effect that is really important to your sound that you create, make an export with and without it, just so in case you want to tweak it, like something like that. So if there is a super important effect that defines the character of one of the tracks, it's recommended to render the tracks with and without for more flexibility, and that's true. To be creative, it's a fragile thing. So anytime you're delayed in between being creative and actually executing your idea, that's how Mike Senior wrote it, gives you really bad karma. So you need to kind of keep it all tight. Obviously, you need a standard track layout. This is not news for you, but that's his opinion as well, so we agree. So you need a standard track layout, and you need to be able to instinctively find where's the drums, where's the bass, lead vocals, or whatever. Like this is something that, like I was telling you, I think I started in the first lecture of this set of lecture series. So we were talking about like the moment in my career when everything became more serious and more focused. That was kind of in 2017. So it's kind of like 2017. I was like, I remember I watched that video in Pure Mix by Andrew Schweppes that explains his mixing template. And from that day on, I never changed my scheme. It was always the same, and it's amazing. It's one of the reasons why I became so fast, because I don't spend time thinking about things where they are. Now, Michael Brower, he says something like this. This is a quote by Michael Brower. Listen, whatever your track is, I will not accept a song that has more than 44 tracks. I'm not going to mix 200 tracks for you. Of course, he can say that because he's Michael Brower. So the best thing for you to do is to give me the stereo blends that you like. If it's 16 tracks, I'm happy with that. The simpler, the better. But I don't want to have to fight my way through a mix. Now, there is a point there that it's important to note that he mixes in a console. So he obviously doesn't have 200 channels. Like, he can make bounces. I mean, not bounces, but he can group a lot of tracks in channel 32 of the console or whatever. So he can make a whole bunch of groups and stuff if he wants to. But that they have, those guys like that, they have like pre-configured paths, you know, like they always get their kick in 1 and 2. And maybe the channels 1 and 2, if this is mostly like a mixing engineer, they're already connected to the outboard they're going to use. So they're not doing all the patch bay every time. So this is just a reminder of how the big guys work. You know, they work different than us. They have their consoles and they will have like pre-connected channels. And that's why a person like Michael Brower is telling me like, man, don't send me 200 tracks. Now, I noticed something. Really, this is really important. And it's something in which I really suck at. I'm very terrible at this. And I wish I would be better at this. But I noticed something that Americans do a lot that I don't do, and I see people in Russia not doing so much, which is blending tracks. Like, I usually send to somebody like, okay, look, I recorded guitars. Here is my SM57, my U87, here is my Royer, and I send 3 mics. And because my feeling is like, well, maybe the engineer that is there, like, my feeling is like, maybe my face relationship was not so good.
Yeah.
Maybe the engineer there is going to want to have more of the Royer, but Americans are super ballsy in the terms. It's like, this was my sound. That's it. Fuck you if it was wrong or whatever.
I think it's because it's tracking engineer work. He should
blend.
Choose the mics and blend it and give the good sound after recording.
You're right. And actually, look, you know, there is something really interesting. The API 3200, I think, preamp. Like, I don't remember. I think it's called 3200. Let me just, if I'm not mistaken. Wait. No. I am terrible with. I want to show you something that is really cool. That maybe you know, maybe you don't. Wait. It's this guy. No, we have it in DTH. Wait. Almost there. I just need to find a photo. I just don't remember exactly. I can search for it in the website of DTH actually. I just don't remember exactly what's the name of that pre. API preamp 4-channel. Wait, if I write 4-channel, I'll tell you something really cool. Channel 4-channel. Yeah, here it is. So it's like 3124 API preamp 3124. I'll show you something. Yeah, I already found the image, but I just want to. Yeah, I guess that here it is. This image will be good enough. Look, like you have seen it right in DTH. This guy.
Yeah.
So you know this last pot here, or actually I think it's this one. I don't remember which one it is right now. These are 2 blends. You see? It's like channel 1 and 2. And then you can make a blend there. Like you can say, okay, I want to send channels 2 and 4 to the blend number 1. And you can actually bypass the output of the preamp to be like, okay, export the output of the blend.
Yeah.
And then you're doing that work on the way in, and what you record to Pro Tools is already the blended track. So, I mean, this is you are so right, and this is so much supposed to be like that, that indeed the preamps even come with that function ready to go. So anyways, so I mean, then Mike Senior goes to discuss like, okay, color, symbols, and division. So as part of organizing your tracks for mixing, you should always get in the habit of layering your tracks sensibly. Obviously, by this point, if you don't have a color code, you really should have it. Like, it's not something that you have to sort out today. And if you don't have a scheme, you really should have it. So the more you color code your tracks, and the quicker everything becomes to navigate, obviously. And I showed you that when I was happy to see some of the things I have mentioned to you done by him as well. I was showing you when we were editing the drums a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh look, this part is wrong. Let me paint this red to show me that there is a problem here and carry on, you know. So he also does this. Like coloring regions in editing window can be helpful. I add colors to remind myself that I need to do something. And of course, I want to start getting more serious about this because I usually don't do it. It's like create markers like verse, chorus, verse. We discussed this, I remember. Yeah. And I really want to start doing that.
So I want to say a small thing that I did so comfortable and like pleasant color coding in Ableton for me. So
yeah.
It's a reason why it will be hard to switch for Pro Tools for mixing.
I see. But why can't you achieve the same color coding there?
Because it's impossible, like in UI terms of Pro Tools. Yeah.
I got used to the black Pro Tools, by the way. I'm now using it like in black mode, in dark mode.
Maybe I tried only the classical one. Yeah. Maybe in the new interface it will be possible.
Yeah, I got used to it, and I actually quite like it now. But yeah. So do you have a standard? Like, what's your standard? I have an idea, like a question. Like, maybe you can even share my screen with me and explain.
It's not a question. Yeah, I can, but I think the project will load.
Slowly.
I'll start to loading it, and when it's done, I'll show you. Yeah.
It would be interesting for me to see your standard and how it looks like, and I will continue. Just keep loading.
Yeah, sure.
When you're ready, just tell me I'm ready, and then I jump to that. So, once you make sure you find a way around your mix project, it's time to start listening through each one of the tracks, so you can start building a picture of what's there. Obviously, so you need to go and edit any silences that are, edit out any silences. This is important. I never thought about this, but when you have, imagine that you have like audio information here and here. If you delete what is in between, the computer is not thinking there. So if you have only by having silence, even just by having silence, the computer is thinking. So it's a good way to free up some memory. It's just like clearing everywhere where there is silence. So that's a bit obvious, but that can help. It reduces strain in your computer and helps you to locate things where they are. This also gives you the chance to deal with purely technical issues while you're doing this, like removing headphone bleed and all of that. So doing crossfades, making sure there is no headphone bleed, and making sure everything is clean. And there is something called multiing. It's kind of an obvious thing, but it's really cool idea, obviously. It's like, let's say that you have an acoustic guitar, and then it's like, this is the beginning of the song, this is the second part and the third part. So you kind of like create 3 tracks, and you put your acoustic guitar track here, here, and here, and you apply different equalization for each one of the parts. I mean, it's stupid that this thing even has a name, but they call it multiing. So the procedure of chopping up a single audio file and distributing the pieces across several tracks. I do this a lot. So you can make special EQ for the chorus, the verse, etc. So that's really cool. And so the next block where he goes is kind of like timing and tuning adjustments. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a whole bunch of meditations about how to organize, how to make sure that you can edit well. And many of the things I discussed with you, he discussed there, but there are some new things there that I want to add. And actually, he disagrees in a great deal with something that I do a lot, so we will see that, and we will contrast those two opinions. So he goes and talks about groove and timing. So here we are going to agree 100%. There is a persistent studio myth that fooling around with the performance in terms of the editing will destroy the life out of the production. I really disagree with that, and I really think that whoever says that is kind of being a poser a little bit. It's like, I mean, whenever somebody's kind of like, don't edit it because you're going to destroy my groove, and it's sort of like whatever, like, I don't know, I react like as if it's a yes just because I don't want to have a conflict, but 99% of the cases I don't agree. And I'm writing here in green, like, this is a false myth, and I agree with the author that this can be dismissed, and it's a client solution, and it really happens. And like I showed you, I don't remember if I showed you, I don't think I did, like, there was this this band with that I was with the drummer in the studio. We edited everything to perfection. Then they left, and then we had a streaming session while they were back in their hometown, and they watched my stream. And when they saw, they were saying how amazing it all was. When they saw that the drums were cut, they started saying, "Oh no, the groove is dead." And I'm like, "But man, like you've been hearing the song for a week. Like, what the hell? Like, no, the groove is dead. Can you please undo the editing?" And I did. So he's writing here, there is a big difference between a great natural sounding groove and simply a bad performance. So it's really ungroovable. So one of the tips to make a good way to this is really cool, man. And to be honest with you, I have never thought about it from this point of view. Let's say that you have that material that I gave you, which is unsavable. I mean, it's a terrible material. But let's say that everybody played bad their group. What should you do? Well, you should listen to all of them and define which of the musicians had the best group. And if the guitarist was the winner, then you start editing from the guitars. This is something I took from the book that I will start doing as well forever. It's like, okay, who played better? You played better. I was always building it from the drums up, regardless of the performance. And that's stupid. So let's read that. Tip for making the best of production groups. Work out which single instrument holds the group better. Solo it and smooth and fix some little things, inconsistencies. And then use it as a reference to piece together the groove of the whole song. So that's an obvious cool thing. When you have arrangements that don't have drums or rhythm section. When you have sections or music that don't have drums, you can use other rhythm section instruments to build your group from there. Like, I don't know, sometimes songs are like a guitar and a bass, so maybe you can start from the bass and then edit it all around the bass. But in general, you should kind of like isolate everything and determine who is having a better group from all the musicians before you make up your mind. To be honest with you, because I'm in a hurry sometimes and I don't want to spend time doing some things, I tend to brute force my editing and not thinking so much about it. And I'm sure that that's one of the Achilles heels of my productions, that I kind of don't sit down and meditate about that carefully. And after I read this, from now on, I'm going to start by making a competition in my head, which is like, who is the winner of the group wars here? Who is holding the group better? The drums are holding the group better. Okay, I'll start with the drums, but just start there. I think that's a good advice. That's a good idea. So this is cool, and I show you this, and I'm really happy that he talked about it too. And I show it to you myself many times in the past. It's called like time is relative, he said. So basically, I'm going to tell you what it says there, and then we will go through the text that is there. Basically, I told you once that sometimes, like, you're listening to something, and let's say that you have part A and part B, and you hear that something in part B is early, let's say. You feel that something in part B is early, but it turns out that it was something about part A that was late that gave you that feeling. And sometimes maybe you would go and edit part B, but it was wrong. The correct thing that you would need to do is to edit part A. So even if the drummer records his parts along a click track, so you have a sietka, grid, it's perfectly possible for a drum hit that looks as if it's been played late to actually sound as if it's been played early. Like, that's exactly what I was telling you, and I'm really happy that he mentioned it too, because I was always shocked about this. I was like, holy shit. This means that it all depends on what was happening earlier in the song before that hit came about. So you need to understand that you can't properly evaluate the timing, and this is really important, obviously. You can't properly evaluate the timing of a given bar or beat unless you hear things in context. You'll usually need to allow like a couple of bars before in order for you to understand what the hell is going on. You will be able to realize when you hear a note being out of time, that the best thing you can do is to edit some notes that are before it. That's really true. And you also may want to just adjust notes that are nearby and stuff. But I mean, basically the core message here is like having an absolutely automatic approach to editing is wrong, because there can be like some issues, that you were your problem was not exactly where you're standing right now. It is particularly easy to get yourself in difficulties if your key rhythmic instrument part has been edited together from several different takes. So when you have a lot of takes and you're making a Franken take, like I call it, like it's gonna be hard to put together a groove here. Now that's why I kind of tend to try to, as much as I can, to use full takes, even if maybe it's a bit worse than the other take. It's like my priority is like if it came from that take, that's better, because it's kind of like a whole piece, you know. I don't know, it feels more natural to me. But well, it's harder just to piece together a whole bunch of loops and make a drum performance. So this is nice how he wrote it here, like even if all the sections in isolation are groovier than a purple velvet suit. What he means with this is like, you have all these you have all these little pieces of audio, like prepiev, I took take 1, couplet, I took the take 2, coda, I took take 3, and then you're trying to put this all together. So maybe all of those pieces individually are groovier than a purple velvet suit. But you will have this issue that in the boundary between those regions, hits can be off time, because each section has a slightly different relationship to the main metric grid. So it's really true, man. Like when you try to piece together a drum take that is like a whole bunch of stuff put together, and then you try to make it consistent, it often sounds very strange. And sometimes we can't do anything. But the first instinct is to try to edit the hell out of everything. But maybe like it's better just to try to move larger blocks and try to make the whole feeling of the whole thing, try to be as close as it can be, or to kind of edit in a way that I'm becoming a little bit tired. It's my third lecture of the day, so I apologize if I'm a little bit sloppy. Or to choose a full take, you know, it's just better. So however, maybe it's better just to move all the sections. That's what I mean. Or just to catch a full-on take. So now, what happened when nothing grooves? That's interesting that he goes into it and discusses. You know, what happens when nothing grooves? So here we are going to disagree, he and I, and that's cool. And I don't know what's the meaning of that, and we can hear later what's your opinion. So small studio band recordings are more than usually prone to the course of the talentless drummer. Actually, I forgot to paint the most important word in red here, which is drummer. And actually to put it maybe bigger. So yeah, this is a curse for everybody. And as usual, like I have mentioned to you in the past, like this is something that you just enter to the live room when you hear them, like, you know, just warming up, and you're like, this is gonna be bad. Like, you know it from the first second. Like, it's all about the quality of the hits. And he's going to say something really important there. So, such performance can be difficult to improve with normal corrective edits because timing is inconsistent. So, you can't maintain a group that is not there, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The least time consuming thing to do is to kind of try to build loops. That's the least time consuming thing to do. And then try to fix the loops within themselves. And then try to put together a final take, even though maybe you're gonna miss like some feels or some bifkas or some stuff because the drummer didn't play them well or whatever. If there is a grid and the drummer failed hopelessly, then another thing you can do is to quantize the whole thing, like I do. That's a situation when there is no groove to kill, and then you make your drummer sounds like a drum machine. And I do this a lot. It's my default thing. I kind of disagree with Senior there. I think that this was done in a way that this was written in a time when something like Beat Detective was not so advanced as now. Because I mean, what follows there, I didn't put it in the presentation, but what follows there is kind of like a discussion of like when you try to quantize everything to infinity, it's so time consuming and you're going to spend the whole night. And I'm like, man, like I really can do it in 5 minutes. So I'm imagining that because this was harder to do before, there is some sort of like ethical question there, you know, which is kind of like, should we do that? Where do you stand in this debate, like about quantizing everything and I don't know, and chopping everything down? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's harder to if you're doing like completely acoustic song or something like this, it's harder to create natural sounding the song with the loops, because the acoustic song has all this like reverbs, transients, and all this shit that you
that's so true.
cannot like hear with your mind, but your brain anyway hears it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if it's like pop or electronic, some like genres which made of loops and all this stuff, so it's completely okay. So and you should like, I think you should have like different approaches.
For different types
for different type of songs. Like
I agree 100%.
So and it will be hard to explain to a musician, but if he do the music that like has this acoustic feeling, so you should say to this musician, you need practice more to create something like awesome or ideal as you want.
Like maybe sometimes it's worth to try to, I mean, imagine, I don't know, that you determine what's the price of your hour. For example, right now, I mean, my minimum price of my hour at the moment I feel is 2,000 rubles. Like I kind of don't do anything for less than 2,000 rubles. But maybe it's worth to tell to somebody like, listen, let's do this. Pay me an hour of work and I'll go to your baza. And let's record you for 5 minutes there. Just put a couple of mics and record you with the metronome and see how it goes. And then I'll tell you if you have to practice more or not. Like, obviously, that's best practice. You know, that's the best thing you can do. So you tell them before the session, and then they don't have to go and make a drum setup to realize that they suck.
Yeah, I kind of have same experience. Like I said that maybe you need a couple more rehearsals and, and please practice more. And so the mix doesn't happen because the guys... It was not job work. It was like experience with the guys from our course, from the songwriters.
Sure. But at that moment it's easier to say just go home and come back. And that's really the best way to go. Like I think I have done it like 3 times or something when I guess that, imagine it happened to me that I had 2 sessions in one day and I could kind of cancel the first one and still have a job later. And I said to everybody, like, listen, I'll put this session for free and go and practice and come back in 2 weeks. Like, and then we will not record. It has happened, but it's so annoying at the level that we're working on. I mean, because it's really a musical in many times. Like, in theory, musicians should arrive very prepared and whatever. But that's the reality of where we are. So the next point, I find it really important, and it confirms something that I was always kind of like saying this out of my own logics, but I was afraid really to be right or not. And it's quite a basic thing, but I mean, just like everybody, I'm clearing some of my own questions. My question was, if I have drum machines and real drums, can there be cancellations between them? You know, because the low end of the kick drum of the electronic kit I created, it's out of phase with the actual kick drum of the drums that I recorded. And then my thought was like, it feels like if everything is composed of fundamental frequencies and can be Fouriered, you can run a Fourier transformation of something and decompose it to its basic components. It makes sense that the phase of the kick, even though the kick electronic and the acoustic kick are not the same, that their phase matters. But I was always saying this with a little bit of insecurity. I was like, oh man, haven't really tested this. I'd like to say it fully. And this confirms it. Check it out. When live elements are being mixed with machine elements, you have to make sure that everything is very synced up. Otherwise, things like phase incoherence between live and machine tracks can drastically change the sound when you put them together in the mix. So, have you had any experience with this?
Maybe, but I didn't thought about it.
Yeah, and there it is. I mean, it's something that it's... And actually, you know, The other day I was mixing I was mixing some drums in one of the streams I did recently. I was mixing some drums, and they are some BST drums.
Mhm.
And I went and I was like, man, let's do some auto align to the BST drums. I was just like, I wanted to see what the hell happens if I do that. And this client is not paying me per hour, so it's paying me per song. So if I fuck it up, he doesn't lose us anything. And I don't know. I mean, I was doing this late in the night, so maybe this is some placebo stuff. But I heard some things there, and this is starting to making me think more in that area. If I have drum machines and live drums, checking the phase between them, it seems to be something to do. And what's another proof that another interesting proof. Let me start opening Pro Tools, because we're gonna need it anyways, and I'm gonna show you something in Pro Tools. I need a micro break because I need to get my iLock and my hard drive that it's in the
No problem.
backpack. I'll be right back. Just a sec. Connecting my iLock. I'm singing your song, by the way.
The project is ready, by the way. So
wait, I got one cable missing here. Give me a sec. There it is. I see where the cable is. Just give me a sec to. I have another proof of what we were discussing, and I think it's an interesting proof. Meanwhile, let's open this. So the hardware rejected, I hope. Not yet. Okay. So
by the way, the project is ready. So when you're ready, I can
open it now. Let's do it now while I'm opening mine. Share me your screen. I'm gonna put it in the screen here. I want you to explain me your kind of your project. That would be awesome. I'll stop presenting here for a second. Maybe I don't need to. Nice, looking great.
Yeah, it just came from the experience of working. It's more like production project, but mixing project the same. Just all the tracks are audio tracks, and it's bounced. So the main point that why those groups are same color as interface, because it's visual dividers of the actual groups of instruments. I just can see that there is my sort of piano group, and this is orchestral group, and it's easier for I to divide these tracks. The subgroups is just something that you can blend. Those gray. You can blend. It's just for cellos. It's not cello. It's
maybe good point. I don't know. I think in English it's cellos with S, but I'm not sure.
Maybe it's cello. So you can easily blend. It's just done by some mixing purposes, because it's penned for some specific way. Yeah, and the color of the tracks, it's kind of in my mind divided by the bass frequency. The higher the instrument, the The higher
bluer,
the color. I can't
bluer?
explain for you. For example, like the deep blue or green, it's a low sound for me, and orange, yellow is a top one. Orange a bit.
That's really interesting, bro. That's a really cool idea. I never thought about it like that.
So that's how my brain works, because I did some, the kind of designer work before. I worked with video editing and all the stuff, and my brain divides colors like this.
That's really amazing, man. I have never thought about that idea. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And then you see the color and you're like, okay, this thing is kind of like more on the high register. Like,
yeah.
That's really cool.
And there you can see just division by the parts of the song, like chorus, verse. Those colors is different. It's not about the sounds. It's just like
parts?
Yes. Just for parts. It's different colors than the tracks colors. So yeah, it kind of works like this for me.
Great. And where do you do your mix bus processing? In the master, or you do it like there?
You mean in this project there is not so much like mix bus processing. There is only like rough mastering with a chain. So I did it in a master because in Ableton you have the return tracks, and you kinda cannot route it to the group of the tracks. So I should do the mastering in the master track, because master track sums all the instruments and the return tracks, like reverb, delay, and all the stuff.
I see.
So maybe I'm not like found this yet. I can. Yeah, maybe I should find this. And because it's easier for me to do the like mixing processing and the mastering processing in the groups.
Here.
Yeah,
for me it's too. When I mix in Ableton, when I have the unfortunate task of mixing in Ableton, I also do it there.
Yeah, maybe I know what Andrei talking about, because you can create the new audio track with the plugin and route the sound from the track to this audio track. But it's different. Those tracks are specifically
and
for...
it's a pain in the ass, because you need to have it like... what's the name? Like in Audition. I mean, it has to be armed, and it has to be... Right?
Yeah. There's some... But maybe I'm wrong, and Andrei will show me something different.
Is that, Andriuha, is that what you meant? Audio rack? Попробуй еще.
Audio rack? But audio rack, it's... you mean the...
maybe he wanted to write track, and... I don't know, I don't think so.
I think I understand. Yeah, audio effect track. And you can, like...
Source? No, space. I don't know.
You can route a bit different in this audio effect tracks. Okay. Yeah, maybe I should find this to process mix in the buses.
To explain you a little bit of what's happening, it's like, because you arrived late, this recording, I really encourage you to see it. I think that this has been a really productive session thus far. It's like, this is the lecture I wanted to give last week. Last week I kind of like was not prepared, and I opened up like the project and we discussed the project. But we are now seeing how Mike Senior, the engineer that we're studying through our course, how he sees mixing prep and what are the thoughts that he has on mixing prep. And then I asked Dima to show me his project. Sorry, is there something else you want to say about your project, Bratan?
Not really.
Okay, cool. So I'll grab the screen back. And Andriuha, and so I put a new Damashki zadania. I put a new zadania there, and that zadania is like, once you finish editing that song that I gave a couple of weeks ago, then you need to put it in a mixing prep, following kind of the guidelines that we were discussing today. So that's why you need to see this lecture. It can be in Ableton. It doesn't matter. So it has nothing to do with any DAW. And then you will proceed to mix that song. And so we were having a discussion right now.
Sorry. I have one more little thing.
Please.
Maybe it can help someone. I'm not so good in as a musician, like the chords and music theory. I mean, yeah. And when I wrote the chords, and when I did production for the chords, I just wrote all the
nice
chords in the MIDI.
Yeah, that's really
how it's
useful.
called. I
That's
forgot.
really
Yeah, because I'm sure I already forgot what I wrote here,
Yeah,
and it will be much harder for me to. I can just describe those chords by my ear, so I can see it.
No, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good idea, man. I hadn't thought about it, and I'll incorporate it. So, Andriuka, we were just like Dima was showing. There was a point in the presentation when I was asking, like, can you show me your projects? And so we were watching Dima's project now, and we were in the middle of a conversation that I think it was interesting, and I think that it may interest you. And I'm gonna kind of like reset this conversation for a second now that you're here. Just give me a sec. I need to sneeze, but maybe not. Okay. So I always had a feeling, Andriuka and Dima, well, I already told this to Dima, but I always had a feeling that whenever you put together electronic elements and acoustic elements, that there can be a problem with the phase relationship between them. But I was always like saying this intuitively, just what I think, because if everything can be broken down into simpler frequency components, in the end, everything is just like a whole bunch of sine tones put together. And so maybe when you put drum machines and acoustic drums together, or synths and guitars, there can be still things that are out of phase that make the whole thing not sound together. And I always thought that that was the case, but I said it to the world without really checking it. I mean, I was just kind of saying it like as if I was imagining. And I was showing two ideas that kind of prove that I'm not the only one who thinks like that. And one of them is this engineer. So he says this, like, when live elements are being mixed with machine elements, you have to make sure everything is synced up. Otherwise, there can be phase incoherence between the machine elements and the real world elements. And I was going to show another proof of this thinking, which now that I think about it, it was always in front of me, that proof, but I just kind of never grabbed it. So give me a second. I just need to do all the crap that Pro Tools wants me to do. Just a sec, because I opened Pro Tools in Ableton, in MMS, and then he asks you to close. Yeah, I already said okay. Thank you for your patience. I wanted to show you another proof of the fact that things that are not recorded in the same place can have an effect on the phase relationship of each other. And that comes from Wave's trigger. Like, I noticed this in Wave's trigger, and I was thinking, whatever, like, why is there? I never paid so much attention to it until I read this, and I was like, oh fuck, like, I even had it in Wave's trigger, not in Wave, sorry, in Slate Digital trigger. So I'm gonna open the same project that we had, DTH active, trouble juice. Here is the one that we have been working on, this MMS edit point 1, and for the sake of it, I'm going to pull it out and edit a bit. Not edit, sorry, to open one plugin here. That's what I wanted to say. So look at this. When you open Steven Slate Trigger, and you see, like, when you load a snare here, let's say that I load this Blackbird snare, this guy, it doesn't matter which one. I have a phase reverse function here, and it's like, why would I have a phase reverse function? It's like to check that the sample and the actual thing that you recorded in the studio are in good phase relationship. So definitely, machine elements, synths, guitars, they are phase related, and it's not only about things that were recorded in the same place. So I've been saying you a lie since the first day. I mean, I remember that when we discussed this, I said only things that are recorded in the same place, and that is not true. So that's cool to check it out, to think about it. So this is where we were upstairs before, Dima, that I told you. I just kind of like made a little mistake in my presentation, and with your permission, guys, I want to correct it. I just wanted to do it like this, and I forgot, and I did it wrong. This is what I really wanted to do. So now we're in a situation in which the drummer sucks so bad that there is nothing you can do but to quantize the drums. So for Mike Sr., this is a last case situation. Like, he doesn't like to do this. In a situation where there's no groove to kill, making your drummer sound like a machine, maybe it's better. I urge small studio operators to do their best to avoid this course of action in the value of their sanity. You see, like, I think that this was written in a moment when it was harder to do. It'll take you all night, and secondly, a bad drummer's performance will still sound unmusical. That's obvious, because even though you have everything on time, still, if the snares are not consistent or something, the whole thing falls apart. Even if it's in time, it will sound unmusical. And a lot of ropey in English means like shitty. A lot of ropey drummers have a very bad balance kit, so it would be a nightmare to mix, and that's true. So he puts my quantizing everything and chopping down and putting it all to grid as a last resource. I kind of like believe that one should just use common sense. It's like, I go and I chop it all down. If it's not possible, I just cannot do it, and I need to re-record. That's it. So now, another thoughts here. This is important, and this is, we're almost done, by the way. And this is more connected with with vocals and things that are tracked with double tracking. You know, if you have two vocal lines or two guitar lines or something, like, it's really important to be super precise at editing the two takes that are different to be exactly the same length, because our brain is really paying attention to interaural time differences, and so it's kind of noticing like, oh shit, like this one arrived first than this one, and this is really important. Our brain is very sensitive to that, and so when you have two vocal takes that are the same vocal take, you gotta be very sure and very careful that they start in the same place and end in the same place. And our good friends, I'm not sponsored by them, sadly. I wish I would be sponsored by them, but our good friends of Sound Radix, they have a plugin for this called Vocaline, which is, I really want this plugin. I don't have it now. And I mean, this plugin is like, oh shit. This program is called Autoline, No Post, P, Sulfur, Radical Bundle, all products. I think they're not showing all of the products they have here. They also have a product called, wait, Radical Bundle, Post Duo, Auto Line. Drum Leveler is amazing, man. It's really amazing. Radical Drum Duo, Vox and Bass, wait, Power Air. I thought it was these people who makes this. Let me just search quickly. Vocaline. It's called like that. I thought it was Sound Writing. No, you see, it's another company. It's called Synchro Arts. So you see, like, this is a thing that you give, like, here is take one of vocals, here is take two. Make them the same. And then the plugin is like, proc, 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 and just like makes all the endings and beginnings to match. It's really amazing, and it really works well. One of the engineers at DTH used to have this plugin. We never had it. And it's really amazing. Like, I really recommend it to check it out. So don't forget to pay attention where notes end, because it's really important in order for you to continue to the next phrase. The tail of bass notes is super important. If you badly time them, then you lose a lot of momentum. So your grid is great to find out your groove, but sometimes an instrument's waveform is a better reference than your grid itself if you want to keep the groove of the whole thing. So it's good to have a reference audio that is, like I was telling initially, Dima, remember, like, you hear all the instruments, choose your reference instrument, like that reference waveform is going to be really useful. Well, if you keep the waveform display in zoom in, it's going to, of course, be really helpful. And this is what I was telling you from the beginning of the course. The reason why newbies don't edit well is not because the equipment of software, but it's because the capacities of each engineer and the way of cutting and doing things is just not up to the task. So the trick to achieve good results is to know where to edit the best, what tools to use, and how to hide any editing anomalies. And if you don't practice, you will never know how to do this, and then the market is going to get you wrecked. So what's coming next in our next lecture? Camouflaging your editing points. There is the role of time stretching. What can we do with time stretching here? Choosing crossfader types. It's going to be a cool conversation. Equal power, equal gain, fades. What do they mean? What is that? Why should you use one or the other? Finishing touches and vocal tuning. I need to ask, guys, what plugin do you use for vocal tuning?
Melodyne.
You use Melodyne?
No, yes, sir.
And what? You have it, but you have it pirated, but not for Pro Tools, right?
No, no. I have it. I bought it.
Great that you bought it. No, I'm asking because I mean it would be good if we synchronize in one tuning vocal program. Melodyne is the best, and I should try to get it myself. I just don't have money for this now.
I have one license I can give you, but I'm not sure if it works in Pro Tools.
Can you please try? Like, I mean, you can give me your login and password, and maybe I can try to log in into the website.
Yeah, I have like 2 licenses. If you buy Melodyne, you got 2 licenses.
Man.
And I used only one.
If you can, and if you ever need it, just take it away from me. If you can give me this gift, that would be incredible, because I want us to do some vocal editing together. And if we have the same tuning plugin, I was gonna do it with Waves Tune, but if you can send me your login and password for the Melodyne website, I do the rest. That's all I need.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
I'll send you tomorrow.
Yeah, please. I will remind you if any case. So we can do some tuning adjustments. So in Google Classroom, there is a a new assignment, which is like, okay, you finish your deep editing, great. Now we discussed some stuff today. Andriuja, I will recommend you to watch the lecture, because I really think, at least skip through it and see some things, because I think that we discussed some things that were cool at the beginning, especially meaning that I want you to render all tracks. It doesn't matter what you have there, everything has to be rendered. I explained it above. So following the guidelines I discussed in this class, I want you to send me an MP3 file with a complete initial pre-mixed song, like not mixed, just pre-mixed, and the DAW project with your ready to go mixing session. You know, like, I mean, you haven't started mixing yet. It's just like, what is the content of your mixing prep? What do you think was the end of your mixing prep? And when you feel like, all right, that's great, like this is ready to start the mixing. So and all those details can be found in this presentation that I just gave today. So what follows in the next kind of 5 minutes or something is like, let's imagine that the song is already edited fully. So what am I expecting that you deliver to me? I'm gonna just save it file, save as. Let me go here, save as, and I'm gonna call this mix prep, mix prep, .2. And I mean, this is kind of incorrect right now because I'm not ready with the editing, but I'm just showing you kind of what I want to receive from you. I want to receive from you a session that has everything color coded clearly, everything labeled clearly and organized in a great way, and all the tracks need to be rendered from start point. I don't want any editing points or anything there, nothing. I just want full-on tracks that are rendered and ready to go. I tell you something that I do here for the Pro Tools folk in the class, which is only one for Dima. I usually do this. I kind of like pull this down here, and then I leave the edited version down there, and then I make a copy. And then I don't lose the editing version. And then after that, I select all of this, and I hit Alt-Shift-3, which is in the equivalent in Ableton of Command J. And then I render all the tracks that were edited. I was telling to Dima that sometimes for laziness, I don't do that because I'm lazy sometimes, and that's really stupid. Like, we really need to have all tracks rendered, so there are no editing points in the tracks that we're going to mix, because it saves energy, processing power to the computer, and it's also in general better for your visual usage of the thing. Like, this block of editing is a mess, and it's really hard to understand. So let me get this rendered so I can give you like the guidelines of what I'm looking for exactly. So this is now rendering everything. Let it run. that render in Pro Tools is before plugins. So he's just rendering this editing that I did. This Alt-Shift-3. It's like consolidate. Something like that. So it's rendering. Let him go for a sec. And after that, I'll show you how the whole thing should be. So that's rendered. Great. And obviously I don't need anything of this. The other thing I would do is, like, you see, I will save it as, and I'm going to leave this mix prep 2, and I'm going to make another version of 3, because I'm going to get rid of all the alternative playlists, everything, all that I don't need, to make sure that you will see the last step I will do here. Like, okay, so I have all of this clean. Then I need to get this bass, it's after the song ends. I don't need anything of this. There is some little kusochek here. I don't need any of these kusocheks. Let's just clear all of this. And so, okay, I got this, and that. I'm gonna consolidate the bass too. So let's consolidate the bass. And you see, very important is like everything starts from time 0 in a way that I can just put everything in the DAW and everybody can understand where everything begins and where everything ends. And then guitars, the same. Alt-Shift-3 and Alt-Shift-3. So that's really cool. I got my guitars there. And so I got this done there, and I have my minimal plugins. These are plugins that I would leave in my mixing prep, and that's it. I mean, you need to upload. Well, I mean, I don't want any other tracks that are not the ones like alternative takes or stuff. They all have to be get rid of. So you need to get rid of all alternative takes. So what I receive is very light. It should be like 600 megabytes or something, and that's important, man, because sometimes people send you like I don't know, like a 20 gigabyte thing that it's like, why am I getting this? Like, I don't care. Like, so okay, I have this, and then in Pro Tools I can just go here and go like wait, I just want to expand this. In Pro Tools I can go here, and there's a function here which is select unused, and then I can clear them. I'm not gonna send them to trash or anything. I'm just gonna remove them from this session. You will see why I do that. These are all the things I need. That's all I need. I just need these tracks. That's very little, and that's how it should be. And then you will do this for the Pro Tools user. I feel that there is something of the bass there that shouldn't be there. No, but apparently it's all okay. And then for the Pro Tools user, there is this really cool function here, which is file, save as, save a copy in. It's kind of like collect and save in Ableton. And so I'm going to save a copy in. And you see, you could have selected main playlist only, and then he's going to collect and save this session. You could also have done that without deleting all the playlists, and maybe that was a better idea. So you can still have that session with playlists in case you need it later. And so I need you to copy me the audio files. I need this to be in this format. And by the way, I'm telling you guys, for Pro Tools user, sorry, Andriuja and Dima, this is the way to do sample rate conversion in Pro Tools. Like, if you need to change the session of the sample rate of a whole session, then you can just go here and tell him, like, copy me this session to here, and you can change the sample rate and the bit depth, and then you will downsample or upsample all of your tracks, and that's really useful and important for you to know. I remember once I recorded, I don't know if you remember, I talked to you about this album that it took us like 5 years to make. There was a band called Starling Grade that I worked really hard on this for many years. In the middle of the project, I recorded in 88, and these were 11 songs, each one 10 minutes long, like 100 gigabyte project, really. And in the middle of the project, I started running out of tracks because I was working in 82 and 88. And so I was like, fuck, I need to downsample all the takes, all the thing. How do I do this? And in Pro Tools, you can do it with one click. Just like, look, and it just changes the sample rate of everything. So, but right now, I don't want to convert anything because I want it to stay in its original sample rate. So I'm going to save a copy in, and I'm going to save a copy in like in another place. Whatever, this is going to be like a self-contained Pro Tools session. So let's call this here MMS export test. I'm making a folder there, and let's just copy it here, like TJ, all right, Leo mixing prep 3. And so now he's going to, you see, copy all those files, and I'm going to get a new folder with all those files that it doesn't have the alternative takes, it doesn't have all the bullshit. In theory, we should mix only that session and forget about all the alt takes and everything. Like, that's kind of what I need to get from you. The equivalent of this, but for your session. And of course, I need you to have your template, and then when we meet and you're ready for that, you will explain me your session. And now, one last thing before we part. I wrote you initially about this editing, deep editing of this band, Trouble Juice, about this editing. I wrote you that in the middle of the process, when you're working on it, I'm going to add some extra tracks there. I haven't done this on purpose because I'm waiting for you to start. When I know that you're already working, I'm going to simulate this case, which is like, listen, we recorded the vocals now, put them in the session. And then I'll send them to you and you will have to figure that out. I just want you to know that I haven't added anything yet because I'm waiting for you guys to start. I have infinite patience. I don't care where you start. All I care is that when July arrives, we did one album and one episode of a movie or something. If we do that, I'm going to feel that we had a great job and that you guys spent your money well in me in this course. So I really want that for all of us. Okay? So yeah, that's all for today. I'm going to have a rest because I'm wrecked. And I send you guys love and forces, and I thank you for joining me today. And as usual, Andruja, thanks. If there's
thank you so much.
If there's anything I can do better, if it's boring, whatever, just tell me. I'm feeling really great about this year's lectures, but maybe I'm living in my own bubble. So let me know, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome, guys.